Picture a countdown. Each second ticking away the remainder of your existence. This chilling scenario isn't a work of fiction or a hypothetical situation. It is a haunting reality for those on death row. Most inmates on death row wait an average of 20 long years for their life to reach their premature end. What happens when a prisoner is set for execution? Well, that depends on the state and the method chosen. The most frequently used is lethal injection. Let's look at the protocol, a sort of grim countdown to the end. At 8 p.m., the night before the execution, the prisoner is taken from their cell on death row and moved to a place with an ominous name, the death house. They're handcuffed, searched from head to toe, but the guards aren't just looking for weapons. They're making sure the prisoner can't take their own life, a grim reminder of the powerlessness of their situation. Then there's the journey to the death house. It's not just a casual drive down the block. The route has to be meticulously planned out. The fear that someone might try to ambush the police van and free the prisoner. After all, this is likely their best and maybe only shot at escape since they were jailed. Each inmate in the death house gets a private cell. There's a bed, a shower, and a toilet. Basic amenities. But the proximity to the execution chamber serves as a chilling reminder of what's to come. Then comes what might be the hardest part, trying to catch some sleep on the last night of their life. Can you imagine? Some might be haunted by memories, others might be paralyzed by fear, and some might simply use the time to reflect on their past. When dawn breaks on their final day, most prisoners get a jarring wake-up call at 4:30 a.m. This early rise gives enough time for any last-ditch legal attempts to halt the execution. From this point, they can spend time with the people they care about, family, loved ones. There's also a chance to seek some spiritual comfort from the chaplain. The cell also has a desk, and some prisoners might use it to pen their final thoughts. There's also the opportunity to make a few last phone calls. They would write down the numbers and a guard dials them. There's this story of Joseph Mitchell Parsons, a notorious serial killer whose violent spree spanned Utah, Nevada, and California. In his final hours, he spent time playing cards and sharing ice cream with his brother and cousin. He also made phone calls to his mother and sister, even asking for mangoes, of all things. As the clock strikes 8 a.m., the death house enters a sort of lockdown. From this moment on, the prisoner only gets to interact with the chaplain and the guards. Visitors? Not anymore. The chaplains often share that the prisoners confide their fears of death. Some fill the silence by writing letters, discussing their lives, or even singing songs. Meanwhile, another critical task is being carried out, testing the equipment in the execution chamber. Everything from the straps on the gurney to the phone line to the governor's office, in case of a last-minute reprieve, is checked and double-checked. If it's the electric chair that's set to be used, all its components get scrutinized as well. Before we move ahead, do you want to see free weekly crime documentaries? Subscribe to our channel now and click that bell icon to be notified of new updates. Once we hit 10:30 in the morning, it's chow time. Strange as it may seem, given the early hour, remember that the prisoner's been up for 6 hours already, so lunch it is. Don't get confused though, this isn't the famed last meal scenario. No, that's still to come. This meal is simply your run-of-the-mill prison grub. Now, if the Grim Reaper's tool of choice for the day is the electric chair, there's another step in the process around 3 p.m., a head shave. You might ask, why? Well, it's all about conductivity. A smooth, hairless scalp ensures the electrical current can pass unimpeded through the prisoner's body. And once the shave's over, there's more time left to spend with the chaplain. Maybe some prisoners find comfort and faith in these final hours, or perhaps the chaplain is just another reminder of what's coming. At 3:30, it's time for the condemned to dress for the occasion. But it's not an outfit they've chosen, it's a new prison uniform. Oddly enough, it's a bit more formal than their regular prison clothes. Before they can don this death uniform, as you might call it, there's a mandatory step, a shower. Every routine, every mundane task takes on a grave significance. Everything is a last. Each step is a countdown to the inevitable. Once the clock hits 4, it's time for that infamous part of the pre-execution ritual, the final meal. Prisoners are given the chance to pen down their culinary last wishes, but it's not a carte blanche. There are budgets to consider. In fact, some states only allow a measly $15 for this grimly significant meal. Still, for many, it's the first time in about 2 decades they get to decide what they're eating. Over the years, there have been some pretty unusual requests. For instance, Victor Figuer, a convicted murderer, asked for just a single olive, pit intact. Then you've got John Wayne Gacy, who went for a hearty mix of 12 fried shrimp, a whole bucket of KFC, French fries, and strawberries. Ted Bundy opted for a more traditional breakfast spread with steak, eggs, hash browns, and toast with butter and jelly, plus a glass each of milk and juice. Timothy McVeigh kept it sweet and simple with 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. As we approach the evening, around 5 p.m., it's time for the witnesses to arrive. It's a varied crowd: journalists, family members of the victim, loved ones of the condemned, and even complete strangers. Each has their own reason for being there, each bearing the weight of what they're about to witness. There's just one rule for them: silence. They're asked to maintain quiet as they enter the witness chamber. Here comes the part that's perhaps the hardest to imagine. The execution times vary from state to state, but they usually occur in the early evening. It's time for the prisoner to make that dreaded short walk from their cell in the death house to the execution chamber. Sure, it might only be a few steps, but it's undoubtedly the longest, heaviest walk they'll ever take. Most manage to tread this path on their own, but they're usually escorted by up to 5 guards. The prisoner is led into the execution chamber and secured to a gurney, chair, or table, depending on the method being used. They're hooked up to a heart monitor and other devices, all to confirm when death has occurred. The lethal injection is prepped only a quarter of an hour away from the end. However, doctors won't be the ones administering it. It goes against their code of conduct, their commitment to preserving life. So instead, a specialist team steps in, trained to deliver it. And just minutes before the execution, the curtains dividing the execution chamber from the witness room are drawn aside. The condemned are given a chance to voice their final words. But some states set a strict time limit. Others don't allow any spoken words at all. Kentucky grants a precious 2 minutes, while in Pennsylvania, only a written statement is permitted. Then comes the moment that everyone has been waiting for, dreading. The chaplain places their hand on the prisoner, and the executioner then initiates the fatal process by pressing a button or pulling a lever depending on the method, and everyone watches the prisoner's heart rate until it flatlines. Then comes the aftermath. The prisoner's lifeless body is removed from the execution chamber and taken to a morgue, where an autopsy is performed to confirm the cause of death. The body is then released for burial or cremation to the prisoner's family or friends, if they choose to claim it. If no one stepped forward to claim the body, it's either buried in an unmarked grave or donated for medical research. As of July 2023, a total of 44 people are scheduled to be executed in the United States, and 15 people have been executed in the United States in 2023, all by lethal injection. And the death penalty? Still a legal option in 27 states. But it isn't the only way. Some states still use the electric chair, gas chamber, the gallows, or even a firing squad. Each method comes with its own set of risks, mistakes leading to botched executions, equipment failures, and long, drawn-out suffering. Now, imagine being in their shoes. Who would you want to share your final moments with? Let us know in the comments below. And hey, before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button for lifetime free access.